On the 17th of February 2024, I gave a TEDx talk that, according to TED, was so offensive they applied heavy warnings against watching this talk. They also unlisted this talk off YouTube, so it's only viewable by a direct link. TED is very clear about their content guidelines, so through a decade of persistence, I made sure that I followed the TED blueprint set out by Chris Anderson himself. So what went wrong here? Let's put the TED content guidelines to the test so you can decide if TED has gone out of their way to break their own guidelines and steal my moment. But before we begin, I highly recommend watching the full TEDx talk, which I've linked in the description below, and otherwise the rest of this video won't make any sense. For the past year, topics surrounding artificial intelligence have dominated the official TED YouTube channel. When you look closely, however, these talks are more like glorified product launches and immune to scientific interrogation. My TEDx talk challenged the very foundation of these ideas with pressing moral and philosophical insights surrounding the rapid advancements of human augmentation technologies. All talks on TED around AI are unequivocally in agreement, since the ones that are not are censored. If you cannot question the science, I'm afraid to say it is no longer science. Did TED silence my talk to continue their unbridled cultural brainwashing, or is this a cover-up with far-reaching implications for society? As you might suspect, there is more to this madness. Is the talk offensive? Yes, people are outraged, not towards me or my message, but towards TED itself. When I delivered this talk on stage, the response from the live audience was overwhelmingly positive. So what offended TED? The editor for TEDx did take their time to address some of their concerns. And to be fair, these are genuine concerns that I respect, since TED liberally applies some of these standards to talks that are clearly out of line, and then selectively applies impossible standards to my talk. TED censored my talk on 3 accounts. 1. Contradictions in the reduction of brain volume. Secondly, unsupported claims around the decline of IQ. And thirdly, oversimplification of mental health conditions. Before we begin, I must emphasize that I deliberately chose to use science sparsely throughout this talk, since a deep dive into each one of these claims within my allocated 13 minutes would defeat the premise of my talk, which was simply to question our rapidly evolving relationship with technology. So let us now take a step back and read between the lines of each one of the claims that TEDx makes. There is no dispute among scientists that the mean intracranial capacity of Homo sapiens has been decreasing as a function of time since the late Pleistocene, and this is unlike any other hominid. Rather than an actual research article, TEDx cited an opinion piece by Feburary and Grabowski that challenged this very well-established hypothesis and chose to ignore recent and robust documentation that demonstrates the decline in brain volume by numerous researchers over the last 90 years. The reduction in brain volume is not a characteristic of the last 3,000 to 5,000 years, but has been an ongoing trend since before pre-modern humans. In my talk, I point out that there has been a 200 milliliter difference between pre-modern humans and contemporary Homo sapiens. How sharply this reduction has occurred can be challenged by opinion pieces, sure. But does this give TEDx the right to cancel my talk entirely? I'll leave this up to you to decide. And by the way, if science knew all the answers, it would render our quest for knowledge obsolete. In 2013, Professor James Flynn gave a remarkable TEDx talk on why our IQ levels are higher than our grandparents. On the surface, this contradicts the reduction in intracranial capacity. If we look deeply, however, we find that the increases in IQ are a product of access to education with each generation, largely accelerated by technology. This is widely known as the Flynn effect. TEDx defends the Flynn effect despite Professor Flynn himself acknowledging the reversal of this effect in recent years. In his 2018 paper appropriately titled IQ Decline in Piaget, Does the Rot Start from the Top? Professor Flynn states, massive gains in IQ were never written in the sky as something eternal, like the laws of gravity. They are subjected to every twist and turn of social evolution. In this paper, Professor Flynn notes that latecomers to industrialization, such as South Korea, are gaining IQ at twice the historic US rates, while Scandinavian countries that benefited from high education standards are now confronted with the laws of diminishing returns. As evident in this table, Finland would lose 7.5 points overall, while Denmark and Norway would lose 6.5 points for an average of 6.85 points lost over a single generation. This peer-reviewed research is directly from Professor Flynn himself. TEDx, however, chose to deliberately ignore this information and once again selectively applied their content guidelines. Recent research published in 2021 titled Decreases in Brain Size and Encephalization in Anatomically Modern Humans further reinforces this claim in combination with decreases in brain size, stating a significant decline in IQ has been noted in the past 30 years across many parts of the globe, with the largest decline happening in industrialized nations. In the YouTube description, TEDx declares, please do not look at this talk for mental health advice. They did not, however, cite any literature supporting their claim. This is astonishing since 20.8% of adults in the US are experiencing mental illness, and over half of them will not receive any form of treatment. Why would TED even attempt to censor a talk that brings awareness to what might be behind this? I've invested 15 years of my professional career in understanding depression, anxiety, and trauma. Despite this, I still do not have all the answers. If you listen to my TEDx talk closely, you will find that I do not provide any mental health advice, solutions, or recommendations whatsoever. Instead, I chose to ask questions that inspire the audience to think of solutions. To be clear, I did not come up with these ideas overnight. In fact, you can see the earliest iterations of these ideas from my cost of captivity talk that I did over 10 years ago, and I've linked this talk in the descriptions below. Despite being rejected for 10 years, I kept formulating my ideas in the hopes that one day I may get to stand on the red dot. And in 2018, I did have that big break when I won the TEDx Sydney pitch competition in the Sydney Opera House. However, I still wasn't selected for the main event.
And this is perhaps another good reason to go out dancing in the rain. So, I work as a neuroscientist, and for most of the day, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, I look at brain scans.
In 2022, I was invited by TEDx Sydney to speak under their TEDx business license. Since this was a paid event, my talk was not eligible for submission to the TEDx YouTube channel. So you can imagine how overjoyed I was to finally officially receive an invite from TEDxBurleigh Heads. For this talk alone, I researched hundreds of articles and went over 40 revisions until I was finally happy with an idea worth spreading. In return, TEDx thought it was a great idea to ban a speaker who has spent a decade perfecting their talk. This makes it all the more heartbreaking. What this means to you as a speaker is that even if you put in your heart and soul into creating the best TED Talk possible, TED can simply make up a reason and say, you do not meet content guidelines, and you become disposable as a speaker with no say in the matter. Why would speakers even bother investing 8 to 12 months of honest, unpaid work only to be penalized for their goodwill? I have no right to be a speaker if I'm afraid to share my own thoughts. Otherwise, what's the point of standing on the red dot when you're delivering a sterilized message delivered without passion? This passion can be seen as a point of contention when I deliver statements like, medication is the answer only when we fail to ask the right question. I do admit, when viewed in isolation, this statement can seem objectionable. In the context of this talk, however, I do trust that people are sensible enough to understand what I mean. So let's break this down for TEDx who chose not to understand. In the inception of psychiatry, Sigmund Freud deliberately communicated to Carl Jung to exclude all forms of mysticism from psychotherapy in order to fabricate it as a legitimate form of science. Psychiatry came to heavily rely on brute force statistics to remain relevant. This helps us to understand that mental illness isn't a fallacy, but how we treat it is. It is no coincidence that textbook psychiatry has no concept of love, intuition, instinct, or the human soul. How can this be when we all know heartbreak and we all know what it feels like to be held tight? But the world doesn't have time for this because it cannot be operationalized and therefore is not part of the healthcare standard operating procedures. Let me ask you this. Will medication bring back your soul? It is clear that medication does provide a moderate level of benefit, but anyone who has been truly transformed by mental illness knows of sheer willpower, a focus, a strength of character and humility that no amount of medication can ever provide. At the very heart of my talk, this is what I'm trying to communicate when I talk about instinct. We've lost touch with our gut instinct. There's a reason why we sit around a fire and share a meal together. We've taken something so ancient and transformed the warmth of a fire to being helplessly programmed while glued to a screen, consuming food that has been delivered to our doorstep. We've lost touch with our parental instincts, actively normalizing interactions with digital companions. These algorithms do not provide nearly as much information to role model a real person and creates underdeveloped personalities due to the lack of formative information for the brain to mature in its development. We've lost touch with our survival instincts as we struggle to win our daily bread and fail to realize how beautiful life is. It is this appreciation for life that I tried to communicate with my cave life. When I was living in the cave, I did not once feel like I was missing out on anything. In fact, it was quite the contrary. It is when I returned back to the city that I felt a sense of great loss. This is why I mention that while living in the cave, it was the height of my human experience. Meanwhile, we glorify the evolution of an artificial mind, the next big explosion of intelligence since the Homo sapiens, when in reality this fake immortality is simply a digital ghost, a soul trapped within machine. By silencing these discussions, we risk overlooking critical issues that have far-reaching implications for what it means to be human. It deeply saddens me to think that we may be the last generation of truly biological Homo sapiens. Why is TED so offended by this message that they would go out of their way to not only cancel this talk, but apply heavy warnings and assert that these ideas are offensive and objectionable? Up until now, performance enhancement has been within the limits of biological potential, for example wearing contact lenses. High-end augmentation is likely to extend this to new abilities like gene editing for night vision and is likely to focus on what is more lucrative than what is of benefit to humanity, and has the potential to fundamentally change the nature of human existence. We already exist in a cross-dimensional reality, especially when we look at Apple Vision Pro's virtual reality to augmented reality pass-through. In the race to the bottom of the brainstem, both brain and body will be atrophied and simultaneously augmented for us to keep up with machine. What we are witnessing is a catastrophe in progress where machine-made decisions to keep the system running will become so complex that it will go beyond the ability of what unassisted human beings are capable of. The incremental pace of technological change will be so rapid and its impact so insurmountable that human life will be irreversibly transformed. By censoring this talk, TED has made it very clear which side of humanity they stand on, and how disconnected and insane this world has become. Now that you've seen the claims TED has made against this talk, do you think it warrants a complete censorship of this talk, or is there more to this than TED is willing to admit? If you have a love for humankind, please share this talk as widely as possible with the hopes that with enough visibility, TED will do the right thing and remove this appalling censorship. The future of humanity may not be certain, but right now, we have the opportunity to create one where our freedoms are non-negotiable.